A lot of finger pointing in Oklahoma over funding for teacher pay and upgrades to public schools. So let's talk about it with the state's Republican Lieutenant Governor, Todd Lamb. Welcome, sir.
Shannon, thank you. It's great to be on your program.
You've got an interesting perspective here because you also happen to be married to a teacher at one of these schools. So what's the discussion like in your house?
Well, I'm married, I think, the best teacher in the state of Oklahoma, my wife. I've leaned on my wife, Monica, for a lot of advice and counsel in education issues throughout my career. We have a high school student, we have a middle school student, and my wife teaches elementary, so you kind of run the gamut there in what I'm personally involved in and the lens I look through, not just as lieutenant governor, not just as a candidate for Governor Shannon, but also as a dad. I look at a lot of these policies through the lens of a father that cares a lot about public education in Oklahoma.
All right, I want to read something, a couple of excerpts that come from the Washington Post. They're on the ground doing some reporting about what they saw and what the teachers are telling them, some of the teachers. They describe this situation in the schools: computers and textbooks that are more than 10 years old, leaking roofs, that kids are shivering through the winter because there are faulty heaters, and buildings are not properly maintained. Some school districts where they've gone to 4 days a week because they can't afford to have electricity for 5 days a week classes. And then they have this quote: Oklahoma has faced some of the deepest cuts to education in the nation. Adjusted for inflation, state spending per student has fallen nearly 30% over the past decade, according to the left-leaning Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. What do you say to that?
Well, there's a lot to say to that, Shannon. And let me state the most recent proposal that's been passed by the legislature in Oklahoma. It provides money for a teacher pay raise, but really the package gets an F in reform. And the reform, you hit on some of the key elements that Oklahoma needs to reform in education. Now, historically in Oklahoma, in 1990, Oklahoma passed House Bill 1017, which was kind of sold to the citizens and to educators as the panacea, the end-all, be-all, fix-all to common education in Oklahoma. Well, that didn't work, so around early 2000, 2002, around there, Oklahoma passed the education lottery, additional funding for education. But you were quoting somebody that talked about the classroom, textbooks, deteriorating walls. Here's the reform that Oklahoma needs. Not just funding for education. Yes, I support that. I support a teacher pay raise, but reform with it. And as I plan to be the next governor of Oklahoma, reform that I'm for and support and will require is a minimum of 65% of all the education dollars to go inside the classroom. Shannon, that's where the two most important people are, our students and our teachers. Not enough money is going in the classroom. 65% requirement inside the classroom helps with teacher pay, new textbooks, new technologies, better infrastructure inside the classroom. That's where money needs to be spent and prioritized.
All right, here's what one of your state reps, who is a Democrat, had to say. She says, it's absolutely frustrating because we've seen package after package be put up for a vote that has disproportionately affected middle class, working Oklahomans, and hasn't asked the oil and gas industry or those who are making more to pay their fair share. So where do those extra dollars come from?
Well, let me just say that I'm a proven conservative. I've been anti-tax. I just spent 6 years in the Oklahoma State Senate years ago. My time as lieutenant governor, I don't have a large policy role, but I've been anti-tax increases. I didn't support tax increases for this teacher pay raise because there are other ways to get there, Shannon. I talked about 65% in the classroom, but Oklahoma needs to reform our budget process. It's antiquated, out of date. Right now, the budget's decided by about 5 legislators in a smoke-filled room with the door closed with 2 weeks to go in our legislative session, and the door opens up and the rest of the legislature is forced to vote on the budget. So we need serious budget reforms in Oklahoma. Last year, billions of dollars was allowed out the door in special giveaways. We can find $400 million, $500 million, $600 million for teacher pay or other issues we need to address in Oklahoma in the billions and billions of dollars Oklahoma allows out the door. What I don't want, or what I do want, let me say, I want to make sure our kids in Oklahoma receive the best education possible. I want to reward our hardworking teachers. The teachers, they have a very tough and challenging job. I know because I would go with my wife to her classroom. I went with her about a month ago on a Sunday evening. Parking lot was filled. I thought we were missing a school activity. My wife said, no, these are my colleagues getting ready for the week.
Yep.
So I support getting a great education for our students. We got to reform how that money gets there. And what I don't want with these tax hikes, these tax increases, I don't want a young boy or young girl to go home from school and hear their parent lost a job because of tax increases.
Yeah. It's a very difficult puzzle to put together. As the daughter of a teacher, I know absolutely how hard they work and how much out of their pockets they often spend as well. Lieutenant Governor, thanks for stopping in with us.
Thank you, Shannon.